Hello, and thanks for joining us. My name is David Penn. I'm a research analyst with Finovate here at Finovate Fall in New York. Joining me is Jeffrey Kendall. He is CEO and Chairman of Nymbus. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Great to meet you. Thank you.
Fantastic. I thought maybe to start us off, you could tell people a little bit about Nymbus for those who are not familiar with the company.
Sure. So we're a United States-focused banking technology platform, and we work with community banks and credit unions. Tend to be kind of in the 1 to 10 billion asset size. We're the customers that we can help the most. And we provide a full banking stack that allows them to run their core processing, their digital banking experiences, onboarding experiences from one unified platform.
Very interesting. Now, one of the things that's a very big issue in your field is the idea of core modernization, for example. And I'm curious, maybe you could tell us a little bit about when we talk about a modern core, what are we talking about there? What are some of the non-negotiables when we're talking about that?
I think there's two parts to the answer to that question. One is how is the core built, and then what can the core do? A lot of people tend to focus on the technology. Does it support APIs? Does it do this? That's great. That's more about sort of the tech and how it's built. Things around that are, is it cloud-based? Is it easy to deploy, right? Something that can be spun up and managed at a much lower cost than what a traditional core or a legacy core might need in a data center type environment. That's one thing. The second thing is, was it built using open standards, APIs, data streaming? Is it able to connect and talk to other third-party systems? That's a really, really important thing in where we are in terms of financial services today. And then finally, some of the things that it can do are real-time processing. One of the biggest challenges with legacy cores is that sometimes you couldn't really know what was going on in the core until the end of day, till everything sort of ran and processed and then it settled out. Now, you sort of expect that transaction to be right there in real time. Your end users expect you to know that from a bank perspective. And then finally, also being event-driven. So being able to actually use your core to trigger out workflows into other systems and other downstream solutions that you have for the bank or the credit union are really, really important as well. So those are some of the things that when it's, say, a modern core, I think that people really mean.
Excellent. Excellent. Very, very clarifying. I want to expand a little bit about that and talking about People's Bank and their experience working with you. They launched a product called Zinlo back in 2020, I believe, as a separate brand. And I'm curious, how did that sort of sidecar core experience that they had inform the decision they made later, very recently, to go the full route?
Yeah, I think for banks that work with us, especially like Zinlo, where they come out with a strategy where they're looking for growth. That's really what people are saying. It's like, I'm not really concerned about the technology itself. What I need is the outcome of being able to go get new deposits in a new market or a new segment. So when they saw that we were able to sort of quickly do that and stand up the technology to go out and grab deposits from other states, from other sort of verticals that they were focused on, that gave them the confidence to say, well, what if we rethought about how we run the bank in total, not just this sidecar experiment, but we want these capabilities for all of our clients, right? And so it becomes almost a way to pilot or sandbox and test a modern core if you run it as a sidecar first, and then say, is this the right core for us for our main strategy? And that's something that wasn't possible 10 years ago. No one talked about piloting a core. It would just be that was kind of an uninteresting thought or an uncapable thought at the point. So that's available to banks now, and I think it de-risks this idea of how they modernize and transform their core.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And a couple of things you said that really kind of stuck out. One was that idea that they weren't really thinking about the technology, they were thinking about the outcomes. And I think that's something that some of us who are very much involved in the technology sometimes forget, that these folks want results and they just want the technology that will get them the results, but they're thinking about that end goal, and it's sort of our job to sort of fill in that middle. Speaking though more specifically about the idea of the sidecar strategy, what are instances when that might be preferable to the full core?
Yeah, so it's usually, there's kind of the commercial and economic reasons. So sometimes people have 15-year agreements on their core provider, and so maybe they just signed that 2 or 3 years ago, and they're like, hey, I can't really do anything different with my core for the next 10 years anyway. But I still want access to some of the capabilities that a modern core can do. So can I cordon it off and run it as a sidecar? That's a good use for them. Or somebody who's saying, look, in 3 or 4 years, we have a core contract coming out. We want to start experimenting and seeing what other cores can do. That's another reason to run it as a sidecar. Or also if it's impractical to go through a conversion process. We all know the core conversion is sort of a scary thing to a lot of executives and that sort of thing. And we're really trying hard to de-risk that and make it into a safer and easier process, but there's still risk. And so I think when people think about what they can do, it's, how do I use this concept to ease into a full core versus do a big bang type conversion.
That makes a lot of sense. One of the things that Nymbus is a major advocate of is the idea of vertical banking. And I'm wondering if that's something that maybe you could explain to some of our viewers who might not be familiar with it, and why you think it's such a critical component of the future of community banking.
Yeah, so if you think about it, it really kind of comes around the word community, actually. That this concept drives a lot of strategy for us, which is community used to be very focused on geography.
Right.
We thought about like the main bank in town, down on Main Street, at the center of town. The community bank reference was that they served Boulder, or they served, Kansas City, or whatever the community they were in. Well, technology has changed the definition of community, and the internet has broadened it up. And now, what I do with my day-to-day finances as a consumer might not have a lot to do with where I live. Right? So my community might be something different. It might be my faith. It might be my professional work. It might be my hobbies or interests, or any number of things. Really now defines how I see myself fitting into a community.
Right.
And banks and credit unions who really want to focus on the member or the individual consumer and fitting that need, they need to get more specific about the products and services that they build unique to them. Because right now, community banks are in this crisis of selling the same commoditized products that every other bank does as well.
Right.
So if you're a mega bank and you can kind of go to any street corner in the country and open up a new branch, you're just competing on scale and your resources.
Right.
Well, community banks can't compete against JP Morgan Chase and Citi and the big guys. So to compete, they need to go more focused and start solving problems for people in that particular industry or vertical. So when we say that, we mean, hey, instead of saying we're going to start business banking products, start business banking products for dentists, for truck drivers,
I see what you
for landscaping company owners. All these companies, yes, they're all business accounts, but they actually have quite different business needs that if the bank learned about those verticals and understood it and focused on it, they could actually create a differentiator for themselves. And that's why we believe so strongly in that concept.
That's really, really interesting. I always think about whenever we're talking about a company that's working with a community bank or a credit union, and you look back and see, how did that community bank start? How did that credit union start? It always started with a very small focus. A group of people at one factory got together, a bunch of teachers got together. And it's really interesting to see that this idea of vertical banking is still keeping that sense of community. Just as community has changed, the concept of community has changed, so do banks need to follow that concept as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I thought maybe to finish up, we could sort of maybe look out into the future a little bit in terms of, say, 3 years out. What do you see as the sort of your prediction, we'll say, for community banking?
Yeah, I think that what's going to happen is you'll start seeing more and more consumer level tools that are using AI that are really going to be outside of the bank's control. And this is what's going to happen, I believe, is with the possibilities of open banking and access to our data through aggregators and extraction, things like that. Consumers are going to more and more want to ask AI agents, AI questions to sort of, hey, help me analyze my banking relationship or my transactions that are in the account. How much should I really be spending? They're going to start bringing their own tools to the digital experience, and I think banks need to think about how are we going to manage through that. There's some goodness that can happen through that, but there's also some risks and challenges that you're going to want to put technology in place from a security and management perspective. So I think that we're going to really transform how we engage with our banking data through AI.
Oh, very interesting. A real bold new future for community banking.
Yes, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, great to see that Nymbus is going to be part of the folks helping bring that about.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
And thank you.